Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name is Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. However, I am by far the least important person on this program because I'm joined by two of my favorite people in the world, the mighty Jay Beal and, of course, Gazz Evans from South Africa. How's it going, gentlemen?
It's good. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to be here. All good. Thank you.
Sounds good. And we want to start by telling everybody that Walther is the official sponsor of this program and AndersonShooting.com, and also Jay Beal. Gaz may be doing Walther things. If we can get Walther things to South Africa, we'll just see how that goes. No firm commitments at the moment. We'll just see how it goes. And of course, we are here to talk about Jay Beal's performance at Carry Optics Nationals. I got to tell you, between texting people about your performance and refreshing Practice Score Competitor, I think I gave myself fingeritis, like the joints. So let's go ahead and get started with the questions. Jay's time is limited because the goat has to bring in the goats very shortly. So as always, we have to ask about your training plan leading up to nationals. Did it change, and if so, how?
I think it changed in the way that I had. So this season was a little different. We had IPSC nationals last year in November, which is pretty late, and then we had IPSC nationals in April, which is pretty early. So my season is just shifted kind of earlier in the year, and so I organized a bunch of ammo to shoot kind of earlier in the year. And so I think I shot a little bit more than I did last year, but pretty close to the same. So that being said, no, my training did not change, but the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to this match, I shot pretty much every day.
Mm. Is that new for you?
That's pretty normal going into nationals for
Okay.
me. Yeah.
And so your training, if we were to put a percentage on live fire and a percentage on dry fire, what do those numbers look like for you?
Uh, Within overall or within the last 3 weeks?
Both.
So overall, it's I still dry fire every day. So it's 100% dry fire and 100% live fire.
Okay.
Um, no, and I guess it would be overall maybe 70% dry, 30% live, and then in the last 3 weeks it was I don't know, both equally. I don't know what that is percentage wise then. So 50-50. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no question that live firing more prior to an important competition is extremely important, which reminds me of another question. If you're dry firing, what, 60, 70, 90 minutes a day, something like that?
About 60 split up into 3 or 4 sessions.
Okay.
So
Do you maintain a live fire grip for the entirety of that time, or do you let it relax a little bit?
I I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I I think when I'm doing specific, like if I'm doing lots of draws, which is a lot of my dry fire, then I will draw to the same grip that I draw to live fire.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the shooting world is so obsessed with grip right now, and this is a very fine distinction. I don't think it's necessary or even possible to maintain the live fire grip for a long dry fire session.
No.
And if we're over 35, that's for sure going to increase the chances of shooter's elbow for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I do think it's important to finish up. I would finish up in match mode dry fire, and then the grip would be much closer to live fire, if not the same. That's my personal take on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Did you? I think I already know the answer to this. How much did you study the matchbook, if at all?
I looked at any weird start positions, and then I relied from friends of mine who were going to the match that would look into anything more further than that. I did practice prone,
Yeah.
um, and I think I we knew that there were going to be some far steel and some far partials.
Yep.
So that was something also that I made sure that I knew exactly what my zero was, and that I could shoot targets further than what we would see. So I shot, at 50 and 60 yards, a decent, uh, shot steel at 50 yards, 6-inch plates. And so so I knew what to do to hit any target.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, I'm sure that obviously you know this, but did you go out of your way to put positive imprints on those tougher shots while you were practicing them?
I think the way that I train at this point, that is part of what I automatically do. So it's not a conscious effort to do that.
Right. Right. And I'm on this crusade right now where I've identified the two biggest problems in the sport is the conscious control of speed and competition and negative imprints during training.
Yeah,
Uh, put
I'm
it on
with you.
Anderson finally kicked it because the world agrees with him that the conscious control of speed is an error, up or down, and negative imprints during training will destroy your self-image and keep you in the middle of the pack forever, right? We look in the middle of the pack like we always do, and we see the people that thrive on negative imprints during training because they think it's the right thing to do. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So one thing that was not clear to me looking at the results, there was obviously a super squad, and I'm assuming you were on it because of the way the stages came in.
Yeah, I was on the super squad that was formed from the previous top 10 or top 12 from last year.
Okay.
They had another super squad which was labeled the other super squad. And that kind of the people that were down from that. So it kind of included people out of the top 20 maybe. And then there was kind of a third super. Well, not kind of. There was definitely a third super squad. So that had the guys so it had Eric and Etzel and Martin Kaminicek, and JJ Ricazza was on there because he was outside of the top 10 last year. And so he was on that squad as well as Shane Coley. So there were 3 super squads.
Yeah, and we need to mention, since we're talking about JJ, last year JJ had a squib on one of the big field courses and still managed to come in 16th after zeroing a giant stage. So I just want to put that out there. So your super squad did not include Graffle and Siler, or it did?
No, Siler was on there. It did not include Graffle or Etzel or Martin. No.
Okay. And did you meet? Is it Graffle or Graffel? You just
I believe it is Graffle.
Okay. So it's not Sailor and Graffel, it's Siler and Graffle. Gaz, you'll have to pronounce that one for us, right? Siler and Graffle. Go ahead.
Siler and Graffle.
There we go.
That's better. That's better.
Now we've got it right.
And then Etzel Gino from the Philippines, also someone who I've watched videos of for a little while, and a very cool person to learn from stylistically, and as well as just he's a really nice person too. So.
That's great. So how much do you know about Siler's optics trouble? I didn't know about that until the day after the match. Somebody informed me of that, and I had no idea.
I didn't know about it until we talked about it the day after that day. So the third day.
Okay, so he wasn't talking about it. He wasn't aware of it. He didn't.
I did not hear any talk of it on the day of. I didn't hear any talk of it on day 2.
Okay.
Which is, yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you didn't know, and I don't know the extent to which he struggled because I was on the range in Wichita trying to stay alive and in 100-degree weather, refreshing practice score as quickly as I can, So these are things we just don't know until the match is over. Which brings me to my next question. Were you tracking scores in any way?
Yeah, I was.
And is that new for you?
No. I've been doing that for the past year and a half or so.
Okay.
Now I don't track them in the way that like I look after every single stage. I looked after the first day, I looked after the second day, and then I knew things on the third day. And so when I look at who is around me. and I look at how many points there are between the people around me, and then that's just I have a feeling now that I trust when I'm shooting with people that I can tell then without having to do math, because I can't do that. Without having to do that, I can tell kind of who's up and who's down, and where those positions are shifting.
Okay. And how does this change your strategy?
It does not.
That's the thing, right? Right. So I've been having conversations with people about pushing further, pulling back. Some people think Graffle plays it safe on day one, and then he opens up the tap a little bit. And I just don't know about that stuff. What do you think?
Well, so I think that I'm going to answer that in kind of two different ways. I think if Graffle was pushing at any point during this match, we would see a difference in his target points, and we did not. Right. So he is not trying anything that he cannot do.
Of course.
And then I'll say that if, depending on the shooting order of the last stage, I would have checked, and depending on that, I would have made a potential adjustment of how I shot.
Can you be
because so if I shot after Jacob on the last stage, and I knew if I had to do it, so let's say in this scenario, if I shot after Jacob on the last stage and he shot very well, then I would take a couple more targets on the move, and I would blend a position, but I would not shoot any faster.
Right. And it's interesting watching the videos from this match. The splits are so boring, and it's amazing to me anybody's watching these videos, because the splits are so boring. Right? 25s, 35s, 45s. Huh. That's interesting. All right. So those are the questions that I have. Gazz, do you have any questions for Jay before we get into the social media questions?
I think the only question that I really wanted to ask Jay is, a lot of people tend to think that when you have a really great performance at a match that you didn't have to deal with any adversity. So my question is, did you have to deal with any adversity during the match?
Yeah.
Whether the adversity was from you or external.
Yeah, I think everyone did. Every single person dealt. And I think we'll talk about that later on. I think I won't talk about it now, but when you and I talk later and stuff, I'll tell you about it.
Perfect.
All right. So outside of the top secret sidebar, guys, you got anything for him before we begin the social media questions?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. All of Gazz's questions. Sorry, guys, we can't talk about that.
So
that's cool
to be at a level of fame where you can't have everything be public, because you've got to protect your reputation, other people's reputations, things of that nature. Which, now, that's an interesting question by itself, right? Yeah. You are an internationally known top shooter, right? You guys are both among the best shooters in the world. What a great feeling.
Yeah. I think it's a privilege to be in that, to be among that kind of conversation or in that realm. Yeah.
And if so people think that only the full-time professional, knee-deep in brass, made of money, Cadillac sponsored shooters can do it, but you're a pretty average, normal human being, right?
I'm very weird, Steve, but yes.
On the outside, you look normal. At least that's how I feel.
So the first question is very predictable. Have you played with, or are you interested in, the VR Ace technology?
Oh, I have played with it. I think it's a really cool game.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Gaz, have you played with it yet?
No, we don't have that here at the moment. It might come through, but we don't have anything like that here.
Yes, it does require a fairly constant stream of electricity that is sometimes challenging in South Africa.
Touche.
And my opinion is if it gets us doing shooting things when we're not otherwise doing shooting things and it's not causing some kind of other problem, I'm all for it. But if it produces, what some people would call these training scars, but if it produces undesired side effects, then that's a problem. But if it doesn't, and we're handling guns more than we're normally handling guns, I'm all for it. But Jay, I know in the past you have agreed with me. There is nothing better than your gun for dry fire. There's nothing better.
Yeah, I have not changed my opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I have been approached by every dry fire gadget in the world because I'm the dry fire guy, right? I invented the modern dry fire method, and I've been approached by every company, and my answer is always the same: not interested. Not because I don't think it's valuable, because I don't think it's necessary,
Mhm.
right? All right, next question. What do you need to do to get the next 4%?
I need to keep doing what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some little things in training that like I'll keep bouncing. Like I'm going to keep training everything all of the time, and if I continue learning things, then that means I'm getting better.
Yeah, yeah. There's absolutely no question about it. This next question is very interesting, and I almost wish I had the full text of it pulled up. But the question is, what are you seeing that other people are not to go so fast?
Uh,
Keep talking. I got to close the door. I'll be right back. Hang on.
Close the door. I mean, I'm seeing what I think that I need to, and not much more, and definitely not any less. Does that track, Gaz? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that makes sense. And the only way that I could sort of add on to that is that you've trained to see what you can currently see
Yeah.
visually, whether it's a movement, a transition, the sight lifting. You've trained to that point of what you can see, and maybe it's just a case of training to that point.
Yeah, I know if I'm seeing too much, and I certainly know if I'm not seeing enough. And I've
Yeah.
experienced that with that in training, and you have as well.
Can you give me a brief recap of your answer while I stepped away?
Um, Gaz answered it better than I did, but I agree with him 100%. And which is that to understand what I need to see and the amounts of that, then that's kind of found out in training.
Hmm. So you posted something a while ago that was very interesting to me. You mentioned experimenting with seeing less,
Yeah.
and that concerned me briefly, and then I realized, oh, he obviously knows what he's doing,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, everybody is, and so some people might need to experiment with seeing more.
Yeah.
For me, at that moment, I needed to experiment with seeing less. Can I see less and still know where the shot went? Yes. In
Mhm.
some circumstances, I can. And so that's kind of what it is. But I had to find out, like, if I see nothing, I had to find out what it was like to see nothing to then understand. Uh, it's to then bring it back in, so then I can kind of still call my shots if we're going to use that. Yeah.
So that's all that matters, knowing where so and people, when we talk about shot calling, people get frustrated because they're looking for too much detail. I think we need to define green, yellow, and red, monitor that in real time, not have too many yellows, and make up the reds. Pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And we need to see as little as possible to make that happen, because if we see more than that, then that costs time.
Right. We don't have time for that. Yeah. That's that's exactly. And there's nothing better than finishing a stage and knowing there's not going to be a big surprise. That's what shot calling is all about. Finishing the stage and knowing, you might have a Charlie or two. You might have caught a Charlie that straight into the Delta, but there shouldn't be any major surprises because they would have been on your monitor while you were shooting and you would have corrected them.
Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right. So mental and physical preparation.
Yeah. What was it?
Yeah.
My mental preparation is kind of as it has been for the past 2 years, or more than that, I guess. I do things that are uncomfortable, so then I understand how to make decisions that I want to make when I'm uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's anything that you don't want to do. Do things that you don't want to do.
Ice bath, Legos, barefoot running.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It might be a form of training that you're hesitant to do, or it might be a commitment to training that you don't want to do. But then when you start to do it, then you'll start to learn things. It's anything that you do not want to do is mental training.
Is the thing that you need to do, right? In shooting and in life, the thing that you don't want to do is the thing you need to do.
Yeah, it's a pretty good gauge.
And it's often the first thing you need to do that day, right? Let's get this out of the way,
Yeah, let's do it right away when it's most inconvenient.
If you know you have to eat a frog before you can go to bed, you might as well eat the frog first thing in the morning. You might
First
as well
thing, wake up.
just eat the frog. All right. Bill Dolan, who is a long time friend of mine and virtually my twin. Again, I don't have the entire verbiage because I was scribbling furiously preparing for this program. Amidst, I'll see if I can make it as dramatic as Bill did. Amidst the ever-changing leaderboard, the shifting of positions up and down, all of the drama going into the match, Jay put on a clinic in fill in the blank.
I don't think I should answer that one.
Gazz?
I don't know. I don't know what I don't know.
I would say a clinic in mental management is mental match mode.
Yeah. I was going to say consistency, which is the inevitable byproduct of mental management, right? Consistency.
Yeah.
Jay put on a clinic in consistency. We have the inevitable question about stage planning. This person would like in the future to see videos of your walkthroughs and understand how you make decisions, if that's something you're willing to do.
Yeah, I would like to see that as well. For like I think that it would be really interesting to see the super squad do their walkthroughs and kind of see how much they're walking a stage. See the flow on a stage. I mean, some stages it's like I'm not going to pick a plan because that's just going to be I'm going to get in the way of everyone else, and that's not worth it. And so sometimes you just pick the plan that everybody's doing because then you won't bump into people around the stage.
And I would assume you got there early and did kind of a pre-walk.
I pre-walked the stages on my first day. I didn't look at anything else. And then after the first day, I went and pre-walked a few of the stages I would shoot the next day. And then same thing for the third day. There were a couple of stages I didn't see until we walked up to them.
No kidding. That's fascinating. I am continuing to tell people that stage planning is highly overrated and stage preparation is highly underrated. And they'll put that on my tombstone too. It'll say choose quickly and get the reps. That's what we need to be doing. We need to choose quickly and get the reps.
Yeah, I agree.
And that goes to the next question. Somebody and you sort of alluded to this. Normally you elude the question. This time you alluded to the question. ALL. This particular person noticed that while the super squad was walking and dancing, you were sort of just looking at the stage very intently and not participating in the conga line.
Yeah, I mean that might have been a certain that may have been maybe one instance that they saw, or two. I think there were a couple times where I would walk the stage and then I felt like I had it, and then I would go back and then start kind of rehearsing the stage.
Okay. And for you, positive imprints during stage planning is this new kick that I'm on. One of the new kicks that I'm on. Is this happening for you automatically, or do you have to go, or do you choose to go out of your way to consciously provide positive imprints during stage planning?
If I'm having to think about this quite a bit, so I would say no.
Okay. So it's happening automatically?
It must be, yeah.
And so you're for sure not allowing a potential negative imprint, even if you're not consciously manufacturing positive ones.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll answer it in this way, where I knew that there were certain challenges that I would see, and like maybe I'm those were kind of the stages that I would walk the day before, or make sure that I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and then those challenges got, if I felt any lack of confidence in them, then that's something I worked on overnight.
Mm.
Not that I didn't sleep, but I was thinking about that and thinking about what I was going to do.
Okay. And hotel room dry fire?
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, I put on, ideally I tied it mostly toward, well, I would tie it into right before we would leave to go to the range, so that I could start my warm up at that point. And then if there was anything I wanted to work on a little bit, then I would work on that kind of the night before or a little earlier in the day. Yeah. But I'm not dry firing for 2 hours.
No,
Like,
no, no. And without naming names, uh, did you see any obviously poor mental game? Like, did you hear people talking about mistakes and reinforcing mistakes? You always
yeah.
hear that stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what squad you're on or anything like that. You hear that, and those are the kind of things that, like, if you're aware of that, then um you have practiced what to think when you hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's, oh, man, what a softball. I'm going to send that one sailing into the parking lot to break a windshield of an El Camino or a Baki, right? Gaz, I'll break the windshield of a Baki, which is a
Yeah,
small South African truck, I believe, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yep.
So these are environmental imprints. Gaz, you know all about environmental imprints and protecting
Yeah.
yourself from them. Give us some examples of environmental imprints you got to protect yourself from.
I think that there's quite a few environmental imprints that are not necessarily deliberate or intentional. Um, so, for example, one of the ones that we get quite regularly is if you have a pretty good stage, there is one small thing that you would like to change, which you're obviously going to change through your reshoot. But someone will come up to you and start speaking about that and ignore the 99 other things that you did really well on that stage. So managing that and trying not to make that one thing they're talking about the 100% of your stage, and letting that be the 1% and you think about the 99% that's still there.
Mm-hmm. Right. And for those that heard Gaz's full comment, what he's referring to is a mental reshoot, which is something we talk about very extensively in mental management. All right, next question. You sort of talked about this, but maybe you could, if you're willing to elaborate. When you saw that you were neck and neck with it was Jacob, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I got the name right. When you saw that you were neck and neck with him, you knew this, but you didn't really change your strategy.
So I did not know exactly how many points we were apart. I knew that there was three of us going in to the last stage, and we were relatively close. And then I knew the person who shot earlier in the order before Jacob and I, they did something that then dropped them out of that contention. And so then I knew it was Jacob and I, but I did not know the exact separation.
Okay.
Um,
And
and and then I shot first.
Oh, wow. You shot the last stage first?
I shot ahead of Jacob.
Okay.
So I was middle of the order ahead of Jacob.
Okay.
And so then, and I know Jacob knew after I shot what because he knew my score after I shot. I know he knew that. We didn't talk about Jacob, and I didn't talk about it very much. But I did not shoot that stage in any kind of special way because of the environment. I think I was I just wanted to make sure that I finished the match in the same way that I was shooting the rest of the day, so that I didn't want to check out or anything like that, or put any extra anything else on it. I just wanted to shoot a good stage.
And after Siler's struggle on day 2, did you see him doing riskier things than normal?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people doing risky things.
And how often does that, or did that pay off in your experience?
Oh, I don't know. It's hard to say. It works. It works sometimes, and it works in a big way sometimes.
Right.
I mean, if and Christian did this. I mean, Christian's commitment to clawing back as many points as he possibly could was very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, if you go out and win a stage by 10%, that's big. There are a lot of points available there. Right. But I mean, it works out sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
I think better to not allow yourself to be in a position where that's necessary or tempting might be a much better strategy.
Yeah, I think ideally, if you can set yourself up for that, obviously that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see. We had a question for some details of your mental management process. This person is interested in whether you had a goal statement, or what types of things you were recording in your journal prior to this match. Is there anything you want to share with us there?
Yeah, I have a goal statement. I don't think I've shared that with anyone, and I won't. And then, but I talked about my preset previously on this podcast when we did it, and I think that one I did not change from the last match I shot, because I wanted more consistency with that. I didn't want to go switching it around again. And then, yeah, I mean, like, stuff in training, like, but I make sure that if I do something well, that I record that. And I also make sure that if there's something that I want to change, that I make a note of it, and I actually follow through with the change.
Right. So there are 3 things that people don't do. I'm not sure what the percentage is. I would estimate 40 to 50% of people that graduate mental management do not take the flowchart to the match and rehearse staying on it. They do not record their journal at all or correctly, and they do not do a directive affirmation and follow through with it. Those are the 3, and those are the 3 most powerful things, right? And those are the only people that call me and say, Steve, this isn't working. And when the conversation concludes, we find out that it is them that is not working, right? I mean, if you could take a 6-hour class and go out and win the world shoot, the class would be significantly more expensive, right? So, all right, let's see. If you had to shoot the match over, would you do anything different?
That goes in the bucket of, like, I'll talk to you guys about it later. Yeah.
Okay.
I think, like, just like everyone would have, like, there is something that you would do a little bit differently, or there are multiple things, but yeah, I mean, of course.
Yeah. And what's really great is you can write down those things in a way that you learn from them, so that they become advice to future Jay as opposed to regrets and complaints from current Jay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because everybody has some number of things they need to learn to reach their potential. And as long as you're making new and different mistakes, you're getting closer to your potential.
Yeah. I mean, so that question fits a little bit into like what I think of as, if you go and edit your score on Practice Score, what are your edits?
Mm-hmm.
And so I very rarely do that unless it's something very specific, and I have not done that for this match, and that's pretty intentional because I already know, and I've already made the corrections, and I did, and I made the corrections in the moment as well. So
right, and is it ever anything except a temporary lack of visual patience?
yeah, I heard you talking about that the other day with your podcast, and I think that covers the majority of everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And let's see. Um, I don't think we talked about stage planning specifically, but you alluded to it. Everybody wants to know when you walk up to a stage, what is your first instinct regarding stage planning? Like, what's the first question you're trying to answer?
I mean, I think it's how do I set myself up best to execute the individual sections of the stage? So how am I going to, like, what can I do, or like what am I good at on stage, and then how do I make best use of it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but other than that, I mean, I think it's I think it's important that you find all the targets, um, especially if like you got to go around and find all the targets, make sure that I mean, ask people if you're not sure about, like, I think it's good to talk about stage plans with people so that then you can kind of pick up on things that you weren't even thinking of. Um, and, but yeah, I think it's just to identify pieces in the stage that you're good at. And then if there are things that you need to work around that you need to be like very stable for, or you need to have extra rehearsal behind it because you need that, then you got to find those as well. And so like an example would be a far partial target, far piece of steel, rehearsing what it would feel like, what it would look like, whatever you can do to do what you want to do on that target, and kind of fight against any feelings of speed or anything else.
Well, and this goes back to positive imprints during training. If you have a 20-yard partial and your opinion of your training on that is negative, the conscious mind is going to wake up and try to micromanage the execution of that skill that should be subconscious.
Yeah.
And this is another thing that people don't know. We're starting to hear other people in the industry use the term subconscious, which is very gratifying to me because that's another fire that I started that is spreading. If we can make a connection between, hey, I shoot my best when I'm not thinking, well, that's not possible for most people under pressure. So how do we recreate that? Let's talk about the level of pressure that you felt, because a lot of people think that people at your level either don't feel pressure or are immune to it.
I mean, we've said this before. Other people have said this many times before. I think I understand that it may be hard to believe in a certain way unless you're, I don't know, unless you get to that point yourself. But I think that the better you get, the more pressure you'll feel. But with that being said, the more nationals you go to on the same range, the more experience you have, the more comfortable you get with being in different positions. So that's there, but before every stage on each day, before the first stage on each day, or the second or third or fourth, when I get the make ready or when I get through that process, I feel very excited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. First stage jitters still a thing? Is the first stage different than the second stage in terms of the pressure that you're feeling?
Yeah, I think throughout the day that you like, I think the highest possibility for having jitters are on the first stage.
Mhm.
I'm not someone who gets shaky, um, like physically, but I do feel the weak in the knees kind of feeling. Uh,
Yeah.
and, and it's interesting to notice. I'll do my walkthrough right before I'm about to shoot, and I'll be like, interesting. My knees feel slightly weak, uh, and it's. I mean, like I know we've talked about this before, but its pressure is not um it's not bad. And so when I feel that feeling, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's good. Like I know it's good.
I'm weak in the knees. Good. That means I'm feeling pressure. That means I'm a winner. Good. That's good. Right. All right. So we've got about 14 minutes left before Jay's goats need the attention. I'm going to check social media real quick to see if there's any new questions coming in that we can
Yeah,
ask. So, Gazz, I'm going to let you take over as the host while I check for new social media questions.
All right, cool. Sounds good. So the one question that I have, because I wasn't there, the fixed time stage,
yeah.
where we discussed that further target on the left-hand side. I saw a couple of videos come through where the guys were running different stage plans on that stage. Did you manage to engage all the targets on that fixed time stage?
I engaged all the targets. Yes.
Okay,
I
perfect.
I think if I were to so like I mean that specific stage, I think the correct for most people plan was to skip that last target, to not even add that into their stage plan, and just think about collecting as many points as possible throughout there. Um,
Yeah,
and even for many people on the squad I was on, I think that was the correct play as well.
yeah.
Um,
And I would assume that most shooters started on the right-hand side there
yeah,
because of that target.
exactly, because there was like a 4 yard target to draw to. Um,
Yeah.
it was hardcover, but there you had full A zone, I think.
Mm.
Um, and then to move and kind of stay moving on. Yeah, there was a stack to move to, and then an open target to move to, and then another stack, and then you would be
Yeah.
essentially done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting because we don't get stages like that. So each year or each nationals you have where you've got a fixed time stage, that's the one that I watch because it generally generates the most interesting stage plans from the guys, and then you get a variety of different videos.
Yeah, and I think most of the time, at least from what I saw, was people, um, like it's so easy to feel like on a fixed time stage, like you have to shoot the time, no matter what.
Hmm.
You have all the targets in the time, and
Yeah,
that feeling overwhelms or overrides everything else, which is interesting.
hmm.
And so I think it's a very interesting test. I think that if they're going to be in matches, they should stay in a shorter stage like they have.
Yeah,
And there shouldn't be any more than one of them ever in a match.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
No, agreed.
yeah, just because you don't see separation on them. Like I'm sure I don't know if
Yeah.
you looked at the scores for that stage, but you have so many people tying on points, and when you
Hmm.
have that, it ends up being a stage that doesn't add any value to the overall score, just
Sure.
because
Yeah,
you have people doing that.
yeah. Oh,
I think probably the most important thing on a stage like that is to make sure that you only shoot the amount of shots available and that you don't shoot any extras, just because of it's a Virginia count stage essentially, so you're penalized for extra shots, extra hits,
hmm.
really.
Yeah.
So I didn't. I missed the original question because I was looking for new questions. Did you guys talk about what the part time was and how many targets there were?
We
Uh,
didn't touch on that. No.
no, there were 14 rounds, so 7 targets. Um, and the part time was 5.7 seconds, which means it's really 6 seconds. You have to shoot under 6, or right at 6 without getting a penalty. So yeah, I mean, keeping under the time and making sure that you don't shoot any extras were probably like the focus for a lot of people.
And I don't like to designate stages as a this stage or a that stage, but if there was ever going to be a survival stage, right, that would be one that you would just want to survive. Did you see anybody swing for the fences and make an error on that stage?
No, nothing glaring. I think like Gaz and I were talking about, I think everyone shot it with a certain degree of panic.
You know what's
That
funny?
timing was perfect.
Gaz, you remember Saul Kirsch?
Yep.
I believe he's still the guy at Double Alpha. I would assume, unless he sold the company, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I believe he's still the guy.
so he mentioned this would have been late '90s, early 2000s. His take was, and I'll see if I can do the accent. I believe that most people shoot a lot of stages with a certain degree of panic. And it's word for word what Jay just said. Jay, did you ever hear him say that? You might not have been born yet.
No, I think it was because I think you have said that on your podcast before, and so that is maybe not referring directly to Saul Kirsch, but I've heard it before. Yeah, but I think it's true. I think it's true.
And do you feel like you shot it with a certain degree of panic, or was it more of a panic attack?
No, I think that's why I think that those stages are actually interesting, is because it's something different, and so it's outside of what we usually do. So yeah, I mean, there were a couple people on our squad who shot it very well and without a certain degree of panic. And I think that's something in the future that I'm gonna, like, if there's a stage like that, that will be intentionally programmed to it'll just be programmed differently.
Did anybody use a stopwatch or a timer to get a feel for 5.7 seconds?
So we all the RO ran the timer for us to give us the amount of time before we started, and it was on a doubled up stage, so we didn't have a lot of time just to focus on that stage. Yeah. But we had the part time to go through. So I mean, I think I closed my eyes during that and visualized it, and then I think the first shooter walked it in that time. Yeah.
So, and Gaz, I don't know if you can pull it up on Practice Score quickly, but those stages are frequently won by somebody not on the super squad, and I'd be curious to know if that happened in this case.
It was won by someone not on the super squad.
See, every single time, right? Somebody's going to swing for the fences and look up. The super squad just wants the biggest percentage of points they can get out of that stage.
And I believe, if I might be wrong, but I believe that even the stage win on that did not get full stage points or target points. Is that correct?
Now that I don't know, but if that were the case, then it would not be properly designed.
Exactly. So this was, I think, it was properly designed.
Yeah.
And I think that they also made a good decision on this stage. I mean, instead of using no shoot targets, they used hardcover. I think that's a smart thing to do on a stage like this. And yeah, anyway, it was an interesting stage.
All right, cool. So I would like to use the time we have left to make an announcement about the future of the AndersonShooting.com Insider Program. I am beyond thrilled and excited to announce that we will be running Anderson Insider classifiers with high hit factors set by Gaz and Jay. And we had the first official unveiling in Wichita, Kansas. So I have high hit factor numbers for PCC, open, carry optics, limited minor. I think my limited guy was only shooting minor. But we will have details very soon for Anderson Insiders. There will be videos from Jay and Gaz and me talking about the classifiers that we're going to do, instructional videos on how to get closer to the high hit factor and performances of anybody we can find actually shooting the stage. Gaz, I briefly looked at your video. I had so much going on this morning to get to this program, and I haven't looked at your entire video. What you want to just describe the course of fire kind of vaguely so people know what we're talking about?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So it's classically named ASI 2401. It's a Comstock course of fire that has three individual strings on it. Did I say the round count?
You did in the video. You can go
Yeah.
ahead and say it now.
It's a 25 round minimum stage, three strings of 10, 10, and 5 at varying distances. So it's a three-string course of fire, minimum of 25 rounds.
Mm-hmm. And the target order is prescribed, which violates the rules of every sport except IDPA. But it's done very intentionally to highlight a very underrated skill in the sport. Obviously, we're talking about transitions. What's very interesting is that when we did it in class, we saw numerous drag-ons and drag-offs. And that, of course, refers to firing the shot too early or firing the shot as you're leaving your transition. And what's really neat about this is it requires you to do things a certain way if you want to get the high hit factor, and it punishes you if you do them incorrectly. For example, if you're looking for bullet holes in the target, that's cool, and you can use that to verify your shots, but you're not going to be able to get the high hit factor looking for holes in the target, right? So we'll be unveiling this for the Anderson Insiders very shortly once we figure out all the technical aspects of how to present this information and how to actually do it. It's going to be super, super, super cool. I'm very excited to have you guys help me with that. So look for that coming soon. Anderson Insiders, they also get a monthly call with me. Those are difficult to schedule, but they are always worth it. Always worth it. So go check out the Anderson Insider program. Please check out andersonshooting.com and go to upcoming classes to see where we're at and what we're going to be doing. Most of our content has been evolving around Jay's mental game. Nobody's asking about Jay's springs. Nobody's asking about his footwear. Nobody's asking about his grips or his gun. We know his gun is a Walther PDP steel frame. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's so fascinating to me that when this match is over, people's complaints and regrets are 100% mental, right? Nobody comes out of a match like this and says, oh, if only my draw was 0.2 faster, I could have won the fixed time stage. Nobody says, oh, if my splits were 18s instead of 20s, I could have won my class. They don't say that. They talk about their mental errors, their mental regrets, what pressure has done to them, and they're becoming experts in getting it wrong instead of experts in getting it right. Let's become experts in getting it right, right? And before we get our final words from two of my favorite humans on the planet, if Sasha was here, Gazz, she would be among my favorite human beings on the planet, Sasha is just so wonderful. That's what she said, as always. But I do want to thank Walther Firearms for their continued support of Jay Beal and myself. I want to thank CR Speed, AMG-lab.com, Commanderson Timer, Hunters HD Gold, Outdoor Dynamics, Targets USA, ShootingSportsInnovations.com for their support of me and their support of Jay. Jay, let's have the sponsor list.
Yeah, definitely Walther. I think shooting the steel frame actually has upgraded my shooting in a way, just because I think it's just easier to shoot. We've talked about it before. It's easier to shoot in certain ways. And those ways, I think probably because of my training, the bulk of my training being with lighter weight guns, has been even more beneficial going to something heavier.
And what is the trigger like? Is it the Walther upgrade? Have you done anything to it you want to talk about?
No, it's the same trigger, except I put in the spring. I think it's Spring Co. has their competition spring kit. So that's a lighter weight return spring. It's different from the Glock because it pushes the other way. So it is actually a lighter weight. the Glock is, never mind. I won't, Gaz understands what I'm talking about, and he can correct.
So here's the best part. Now we finally have the correct clickbait for this program, because we can say Jay Beal has finally broken down his shroud of secrecy. He's finally mentioned the unmentionable. He's finally willing to tell us what spring you need to put in your trigger to have a great performance at nationals. Finally.
Yeah, trigger return spring, and I believe, I would have to look at my notes. I think I put the safety plunger spring in.
Okay.
But I think the biggest thing is having a little bit of grease on the actual trigger bar so that it doesn't drag on the slide. I think that's a really good thing.
Oh, nice. And is that a grease that exists in the goat maintenance world, or is that from the shooting world?
That one is from the shooting world. I believe this is Brian Enos's Slide Glide.
Oh, that's the greatest stuff ever.
Yeah.
So great. And Gaz, I'm sure you're writing this down, but you could very easily come up with goat oil for trigger lever bars things, right? Goat oil.
How great would that be? Goat oil for thingamajigs.
Yeah, goat oil, right? All right, Jay. Let's have the rest of the sponsors.
Yeah. Okay. We did CR Speed. GX Products makes the actual holster that I use. That's the one with the lock on it and double layer Kydex, which is a big upgrade over single layer Kydex. And then,
would you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Would you have them send me a holster shell?
Yeah.
Because I still have the holster shell from the gun I was using before, and it kind of fits and it kind of works, but it's not 100%.
Oh yeah, you would be you would love that. Yeah, you would like a nice holster that fits.
Van Halen stripes would be awesome.
Whoa, doable.
And I'm going to tell you this with, hopefully I can do this without getting choked up a little bit, because I'm more emotional than normal right now. But seeing the video of you at that match wearing those stripes gives me a feeling of pride that is difficult to describe without breaking down.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
And seeing, oh boy, here we go. Seeing you go up on that podium in that shirt with those distressed stripes, again, I that's as far as I can go without breaking down. And I so you'll have to fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah.
As far as I can go without crying.
Yeah. I can fill in the blanks, and I'm sure that you have seen many comments, or maybe gotten some, but people really like that shirt. People really like that shirt.
And you're the only reason I'm not offering it for sale. You asked me not to, but I think it may be time to come up with a version of that shirt.
You can come. I'm gonna have some. There'll be another one made that then will become mine. Okay. It'll be just with updated things on it. But
stripes, still stripes.
Oh, still stripes. Definitely.
Okay.
I really like those stripes. And while I'm still talking, I'll mention the last one. So Summit City bullets, which I'm using the 135 grain bullets because I cannot decide between 124 and 147. They are the middle ground. If you don't want to decide anything, then you don't have to. You can just shoot 135s. And those I noticed a huge, well, I shouldn't say huge because, but I noticed an upgrade in accuracy when switching to those bullets. And that's just because the diameter of the bullet is what it should be. And so, I mean, shooting at 50 yards, 60 yards, I'm getting groups that are really good. I'm very happy with them. And I know some of that factors me, but also some of that factors the bullets.
Good. Hey, you left out your first sponsor.
I left out AndersonShooting.com.
There we go.
So as I think about this moment a lot, Steve, and I will also try not to get choked up, but I think about the moment a lot. I was in the goat barn, and I was just finishing up a dry fire session because I used to dry fire in a back room in the goat barn. All my stuff smelled like goats. All my gear did. And And I remember it was after that class. It was, maybe a month or two later. You sent me a text or a Facebook message, maybe. I don't know if I had your number. Um, and you said uh, something like, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a team, an Anderson shooting.com team, and would you be interested in that?" Um, and then there was some conversation that followed, but I remember exactly where I was, and I'll always remember kind of uh, that feeling. I was like, Steve wants me to do that, like the Anderson shooting.com team. It's pretty cool. And then that was it. I mean, I think that was, you already knew kind of about Gazz and about it was me and Gazz that you wanted to bring on at that time, because you had already been talking to Gazz. You'd already been over to South Africa. You had already um, kind of given me Gazz's email, and we were already exchanging. Well, Gazz was exchanging long emails. I was exchanging shorter emails, probably.
Well, of all the shooters I have ever been around, you two are the two that I immediately wanted to assist and be associated with, just immediately. Um, Obviously because of the shooting, but because of the way you guys carry yourselves on the range, because you guys are me when I'm not around. And I don't trust very many people to be me when I'm not around. And I trust both of you to be me when I'm not around. And I just love that.
Yeah, true story. Thank you, Steve.
Gazz is still recovering from the first time I told him I loved him on the range. He was like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I said something like, "Because I love you and I want you to reach your full potential." And you were like, "Oh, that's weird." "Oh, but it's not bad. It's just okay, cool. That's fine." But you guys know I'm not super emotional, but the emotion that I feel comes in waves. And I'm obviously feeling very emotional right now about your success, my success, Gazz's success. I mean, here we are, the three of us just sitting on top of the world, right where we belong. So it's just absolutely wonderful, right?
Yeah.
Gazz, you want to talk about your sponsors and any closing comments you might have?
Yeah, I'll mention my sponsors quickly. As always, thank you to you, Steve. Thank you to AndersonShooting.com. It's a privilege to be on the team. And to all of my sponsors who continually give me support and allow me to keep doing what I love. Burnout Agencies, Shooting Stuff, Guns at Work, Zero Mike Bullets, Disney Performance, Force Ninja, Bad Baxter Productions, and Pit Zero Code South Africa. You guys are all awesome.
And of course, DVC Technologies has an extensive line of products. I don't know, do you ship to the US? Are you able to do that economically for any of your products?
At the moment, we haven't done anything, but we can probably look at it at some point in the near future.
Okay. And there's not a reason why we can't work on some US distribution to have some stuff shipped in bulk.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know why we haven't had that conversation previously, but that's a conversation you and I can have in the near future on how to maybe make that work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
That'll be great.
All right, Jay, any closing remarks or comments from, I believe, so you were second IPSC Nationals and now second US, is that correct?
Second US in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. And does that get its own plaque or trophy, or is it, or did you get a fifth place and a second US, or how does that work?
I don't know how that works. I don't know.
Okay.
Not sure.
We'll figure it out. We always do.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. I want to say thank you to the people that I was staying with in the Airbnb, because those people are good people, and I like good people.
You want to mention them by name?
I
have to, but
they're good.
Okay. All right. Fine. That actually reminds me of one of my favorite pinch me moments was when I was. Do you remember when I was sitting on the couch with Travis Tomasi in the Masterpiece Arms Airbnb, watching videos of you do Travis things? And Travis was sitting there, and he made that inimitable Travis Tomasi face, and he goes, "Whoa, that's so fast!" How great is that? All right, we could do this all day, and I certainly would like to. However, Jay has got to let the goats in. And we will, do you guys want to stay offline and hang out for just a couple of minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Sure. Sounds good. We'll do the catchy catchphrase until we meet again on the range or anywhere else. If you are interested in mental management or any other, the training that AndersonShooting.com provides for any shooting sport or any sport at all, you can go to AndersonShooting.com, check out upcoming classes. I will get an August mental management seminar set up today. So that will be an option for you. And then you can get access to the same information that Jay and Gazz have about mental management and the mental game. Whether you choose to apply the whole program will be totally up to you, but you will get the percentage of success that is equal to the percentage that you apply this material. Right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Until then, be like us, do what we do, don't be a jerk, and get to work. And
get to work.
Gotta find the stop recording button here. And oh, it disappears every time I click on it. Okay, we'll try it this way. So exciting. And get to work.
Get to work.
Get to work.